Reeves Immigration Law Group now brings you immigration law on your side.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. It's another Wednesday mga kababayan and alam ko nakatutok pa kayo sa mga kaganapan sa Pilipinas sa kagaganap namang na eleksyon. Pero ngayong gabi pag-uusapan natin ang F1 visa. You know, attending college in the United States, whether at the graduate or undergraduate level, offers many benefits to international students. Mga kababayan natin from the Philippines, kamukhang ng mga pumapasok sa mga kolehiyo dito. But, you know, studying in the United States requires more than simply making the decision to do so. May mga process na kailangang sundin. One of the most important part of that process, and often the most intimidating, is applying for a student visa that will allow you to study in the United States. Kaya with us tonight again is Attorney Flomy Javier Diza of Reeves Immigration Law Group, who will help us understand the student visa and the key steps involved in applying for it. And we'll get you some tips as well on how, you know, you can have that visa na medyo hindi masyadong stressful at mas madali ang process. So welcome na natin si Attorney Diza. He is joining us tonight via Zoom from San Francisco, California. Magandang gabi po sa iyo, Attorney Diza.
Good evening, Kuya Johan, at sa lahat ng viewers and listeners ng PHLV Radio. Magandang gabi sa inyong lahat at thanks for always having me here at PHLV Radio. So we can render public service sa ating mga kababayan sa Pilipinas. At very important ang ating discussion ngayon regarding student visa because a lot of ating mga kababayan ay nagtatanong kung paano sila makakuha ng visa in the US. At hindi lang tourist visa, hindi lang sa employment visa, right, or yung mga non-immigrant visa, but also as part of the initial step for you to immigrate in the United States is also what we call a student visa, lalong lang ng mga newly graduate, Kuya Johan, ng high school, or if mga kababayan natin nakatapos na rin ng one course and they really wanted to get another course in the US or get a master's degree. Ito po yung visa po ninyong i-applyan. The student visa, Kuya Johan, also known as the letter F1 visa, is a non-immigrant visa that allows foreign nationals to enter the United States and study, sa mga accredited colleges or universities in the United States. And that study should culminate into a diploma or a degree. Dapat magkaroon ng graduate. Now, and also the school that you're applying should be accredited by the United States government, specifically ang US Immigration, USCIS. So yun po ang F1 student visa, Kuya Johan. Again, it's a non-immigrant visa that only allows you to enter the United States on a temporary basis. So pag natapos na po yung course po ninyo or yung diploma, you're supposed to go back home. But again, as you mentioned, this is a good initial step, para po sa pagiging green card nyo in the future, if you're able to find an employer who would petition you or into a H-1B or employment-based visa, maganda itong initial step. Just because, again, right, it will allow you to stay here for, 2 years or up to 4 years or hanggang nag-aaral po kayo. It's a lot more than the tourist visa na nabibigay lang po sa inyo ay 6 months and at the maximum is only a year. So yun po, Kuya Johan, ang F1 visa at marami sa ating mga Pilipino ay nandito at naghahangad na mag-apply ng F1 student visa.
In fact, attorney, marami sila nagtanong, for example, nandito, pwede bang madala yung kanilang family, pwede ba sila magtrabaho? Mga kaibigan, if you're just jumping into the feed right now, pinag-uusapan po natin ang F1 visa, ang student visa. And some of you have submitted some questions about the student visa. And isa sa mga itatanong natin kay attorney, yung itinatanong nyo kung pwede magtrabaho. So mamaya po yan, mga kaibigan. But right now, attorney, walk us through the process on how one from outside of the United States can apply for a U.S. visa. Kailangan ba maghanap muna sila ng school? Walk us through the process, attorney.
Yes, Kuya Johan, but keep in mind mga kababayan natin, you can apply student visa whether you are outside the United States, halimbawa nasa Pilipinas po kayo or other countries, or nandito na kayo sa US on a non-immigrant visa, kagaya po ng tourist visa or J1 visa or any kind of non-immigrant visa while you are in status. For the meantime, pag-usapan po natin kung nasa labas po kayo, well, applicable din pala dito kahit nandito kayo. Pero ang una po ninyong gagawin ay maghanap po kayo ng school, American University, college, seminary, even high school, Kuya Johan. Pwede po kayo maghanap ng accredited ng gobyerno that allows international student. So yun po ang una ninyong titignan and make sure that that school or university is accredited. Yung tinatawag natin student and exchange visitor program, kasama sila dun sa accredited ng USCIS. So yun po ang una nilang titignan at siyempre ang school Kuya Johan may sarili rin niyang requirements. So a lot of schools, when you just go to the registrar's office, hindi alam na nag-accept sila ng international students or hindi alam po anong gagawin. What you do is you're going to look for the international student area or whoever is in charge in the school. At tanungin ninyo ko yung anong mga requirements. So may mga checklist din po sila dyan, kagaya ng anong course ang gusto mong kunin, right? Ano ang course na nakuha mo na dati, and more importantly, saan ka kukuha ng funds, right? Para sa tuition fee mo and while you are studying in the United States. So in other words, may mga requirements ng school, specifically mga financial evidence that you're able to pay the tuition fee and also pay for your incidental expenses while you're going to school. So yun po ang una nilang gagawin, Kuya Johan, and make sure that, again, pagka-identify nila yung school that is accredited by US government, make sure na mag-request sila ng tinatawag na I-20. Yun yung pangalawa. So a lot of mga kababayan natin tatawag sa akin, attorney, gusto kong mag-change ng status from tourist to student, right? O gusto mong i-apply yung anak ko sa Pilipinas ng student visa, pwede mo ba ako i-process na kaagad? So what I tell them is, look for the school, request for the international student coordinator ng school, and request that I-20. Pagkakuha mo ang I-20 na yan, balik ka sa amin and we can file, right, ng extension, ng change of status or apply at the embassy. So ano po yung I-20 na yan? Ito po yung Certificate of Eligibility for Student Non-Immigrant Visa. Basically, Kuya Johan, naglalaman nito yung kung ano yung course mo, right? Ano yung duration ng studies mo, let's say 1 year yan, 2 years yan, 4 years yan, at saka yung mga expenses or tuition fees. So yun yung I-20 mo. As I said, the school only gives you that once you complied with the school requirements. Now, also mayroong service fee, yung natawag natin na I-901, which is $200 non-refundable. Kailangan bayaran din ninyo yan in order for you to apply for a student visa. So yun yung pangatlong requirements is pay for that fee, Kuya Johan. And then of course, pag nasa labas po kayo ng bansa, of course you have to identify yung consulate. So sa atin, sa Pilipinas, sa Manila, US Embassy. So mag-schedule po kayo ng appointment. Ngayon po ay online, right? Ang appointment, you have to fill out forms, yung DS-160, and also upload the necessary documents. Important is, of course, yung I-20 na nabanggit natin, right? Saka yung inyong mga affidavit support, let's say your family, your uncle, your nephew, or whoever has an income in the United States, right? Or kahit sa Pilipinas, kung ipakita natin ang bank accounts ng inyong magulang o yung, sa inyo mismo because you have had a business back home in the Philippines, ipakita po ninyo yan o i-upload po natin para sa interview po. Kasi it's really important that you have the ability to come to the US, study, and pay the tuition fee. Hindi po yung tipong gagamitin mo lang yung student visa to enter the US and then magtatrabaho na po kayo, and that's definitely prohibited. So pagkatapos po ninyo mag-fill out ng I-60, then you have to go to that interview at the consulate, and of course there would be a lot of questions dyan, right? And the purpose of your what do you call this, schooling, bakit gusto mo yan, saan kagaling yung income or yung pera, to finance your studies in the United States. So schedule that interview, and once you get approved, you pay for the visa as well and enter the United States no later than 30 days ng beginning ng school year or ng school program. Take note mga kababayan that even if you get approved, let's say nasa labas po kayo ng Pilipinas, hindi kayo bibigyan ng visa earlier than or not later than 30 days dun sa start ng inyong schooling. Yung mga nandito naman sa US, Kuya Johan, usually when you enter on a student visa, on a tourist visa, binibigyan po kayo ng 6 months. So what the client asked me, usually is, attorney, gusto po mag-change ng status. I advise them that changing status right away is not a good idea. Lalong-lalo na kung kapapasok mo lang, di ba? So dito po mapasok yung intent. What was your intention when you entered the US? So if you came in with a tourist visa, immigration expects you to be on a tourist visa. Either visit places in the US, visit your relatives, hindi yung tipong naghahanap ka na ng paraan para ma-extend yung status mo or ma-change ng status mo. So ideally, should be 3 months after yung entry mo. Although you can already make some initial steps like consulting an attorney or looking for a school and file for the student change of status from a tourist visa to a student visa 3 months, at least 3 months from your last entry. So yun po ang procedure, Kuya Johan. It's not as simple as it looks like, just because again, the student visa is a non-immigrant visa.
Kaya dapat hindi masyadong obvious pala na change ka agad status.
Correct, oo. At saka kailangan i-provide mo rin, Kuya Johan, that you're going back, right?
Yes.
Parang tourist visa yan this is only a non-immigrant visa. So after your studies, what are your plans? Siyempre, tatanungin sa'yo yan.
Right.
Hindi po gusto ko na maghanap ng trabaho. Of course, the consular office still wanted you to say, right, that you are going back and, ibalik mo yung pinag-aralan mo sa Pilipinas, and that's what should be. Kasi yung intent mo is only for studies.
Nabanggit yung attorney kanina yung funding. If our kababayan from the Philippines is coming here on an F1 visa studying, say for example, in New York or Pennsylvania or in LA, and then ang gagasto sa kanila ay yung kanilang relative na nandito sa United States, will that be something negative para sa kanya na, may relative ka pala dun, baka hindi na ito umuwi?
No, actually, Kuya, it's going to be very helpful. Lalong-lalo na may continuous, what do you call this, employment ang kanilang kamag-anak dito. Hindi tipong papakita mo lang yung bank account mo that has like, let's say, 1 million pesos, right? Or 2 million pesos na maubos yan in due time. Di ba? Hindi kagaya ng mag-affidavit support dito na kamag-anak mo. Halimbawa, may trabahong registered nurse sa isang hospital at kumikita ng ganitong amount of money. But he's been or she has been with the hospital for a very long time. Ito yung kanilang taxes for the last 3 years. Ito yung kanyang paycheck every month, right? So kumbaga mayroong flow ng cash or income, and that would be very helpful, right? Kung sasabihin that the relative will take care of the tuition fee or the student will be residing, right, for free at the relative's place or house. So yun po pwedeng i-prove yan, Kuya Johan. In fact, we also encourage yung mga sponsors to execute what we call an affidavit of support on Form I-131. I-131 is also a form, right, for non-immigrant visa. Kasi yung I-864, ito po sa mga green card or mga immigrant. Pero for non-immigrant, we recommend them to do and execute and submit I-131 affidavit support, including their taxes, including their bank accounts, paychecks, W-2s, and certificate of employment.
Backing track a little bit, attorney, regarding the yung beneficiary. Pag naghahanap po ba siya ng courses na gusto niya na kunin dito sa United States, ito po ba ay kailangang related sa kanyang current educational attainment sa Pilipinas? Say for example, baka naman kasi masyadong malayo, ano? Engineer siya sa Pilipinas, tapos biglang pagdating dito sa US nasa medical field ang kanyang kukunin. Will that matter, attorney?
No, Kuya Johan. In fact, as long as you can prove that you are going to school and study, that should be sufficient. So let's say abogado ka pa man sa Pilipinas or doctor ka, well, doctor sa Pilipinas, pwede kang mag-RN dito kung kulang ka ng units, di ba, to take the nursing board. So I have seen many clients, kababayan, who were basically enrolled in a different course. Yung nabanggit mo, totally different from their course in the Philippines. Kasi syempre kung mag-aaral ka rin lang at ang long-term plan mo is to find an employment in the United States, syempre yung gusto mo yung medyo in demand na, di ba? So most likely doon ka sa medical field. So that's okay. In fact, mga kababayan natin from other countries like Korea and Japan, right, where English is not a major language, pwede rin sila mag-enroll muna sa mga language school for 2 years. So that's also allowed even if they already have a bachelor's degree in their home country. They still can enroll in a language school in the United States.
At isa din, attorney, sa itinanong nila related dyan is ito pinag-uusapan natin yung kolehiyo, attorney. How about yung lower levels, yung mga say for example high school pa lang? Pwede bang gamitin ng F1, attorney, para mag-high school yung bata dito sa United States?
Maraming nagtatanong, Kuya Johan, kasi ang high school and middle school and grade school ng United States ay free, di ba? Public. Kung meron mga private, siyempre magbabayad ka ng tuition fee like 500 to 1,000, probably 2,000 a month, right? Okay yon. Pero kung plano mo po ninyong mag-aral inyong anak sa public school, pwede rin po yon, but you have to pay the corresponding tuition fee kung magkano po ang equivalent ng babayaran nila. Meron po lang silang calculation dyan na ang Amerika, enroll mo ang anak mo sa public, okay ka na. Hindi po ganon. Kasi otherwise marami na mag-a-apply ng kanilang anak dito at di ba dito na pag-aralin kasi nga libre. So in order for them to avail of the F1 sa mga high school, grade school, middle school, kailangan kung public po ang hinahanap ninyo, of course you have to talk to the administration or to the principal if they accept and accredited sila ng government to accept international studies, and if they do, they require you to pay the tuition fee in full. Kung ano yung corresponding amount that's calculated by Department of Education.
Napag-usapan natin, attorney, yung mga bata. How about, attorney, if the beneficiary, yung nanay, for example, or yung tatay, ang F1, I'm assuming they can bring their kids here also on a derivative F visa, ano po?
Yan ang kinagandahan, Kuya Johan, kasi ang karamihan ng mga non-immigrant visa may mga derivatives, di ba? So like H1B, for example, may mga H4 yung mga family and they are allowed to apply for work authorization. Unfortunately for F1, fortunately for F1, pwede rin magdala ng derivative, right? The spouse and also the children below 21. Now, the good thing about the children, pwede sila mag-enroll, let's say nasa student visa ang nanay or tatay nila, pwede sila mag-enroll sa public school. Right? Hindi na nila kailangan mag-apply pa ng F1 status, yung pinag-usapan natin kanina na independently stand alone na sila lang ang magpa-file ng petition. Pero if they're derivative, they're allowed to go to school. Yung kanilang asawa, unfortunately, hindi pwede magtrabaho. Hindi rin sila pwede magpunta ng school, kundi nandun lang sila as derivative sa bahay lang. Right? What I advise sa mga kababayan natin is to find an employer. Let's say nasa F1 yung asawa po ninyo at nasa F2 po kayo, right? Lalong-lalo kung professionals kayo or kahit hindi, maghanap kayo ng employer kasi lalong-lalo na kung 2 hanggang 4 na taon ang inyong stay sa Amerika. And as we keep on mentioning dito sa ating programa, ang EB3, Kuya Johan, di ba? Mga professionals, skilled, unskilled workers, nurses, engineers, caregivers, carpenters, current dyan, available po ang visa. So, let's say, ang inyong asawa is 4 years na mag-aaral dito at kayo po ay na-stuck dito as a homemaker, then find an employer who's willing to petition for you right away. By the time na matapos po ang inyong status o ang inyong visa, available na or pag-green card na kayo on that aspect. Diba? Kung meron po kayong, na-filean po kayo ng labor certification and I-140 dun sa employer's petition for green card.
Aha, ito yung asawa naman yun ng sasalo ng kanilang status. Oh, yun.
Yes, kuya yun. Either way, kung sino makahanap sa kanilang dalawa, as long as the employer is actually willing to file that petition na hindi nagtatrabaho. Kasi kalimitan sa atin, di ba, kailangan magtrabaho ka para petitionin ka. Pero marami rin mga employers na nagpe-petition pa rin, di ba, kahit na hindi ka nag-work sa kanila in anticipation that once you get your visa, you'll be working with them for this number of years.
Aha. Isa, attorney, sa mga ibinatong questions dito is na-extend daw po ba itong F na ito kung sakaling medyo nagpalit ka ng kurso or humaba ngayon yung pag-aaral mo?
That's really a good question, Kuya Johan, kasi karamihan mga estudyante dito na gusto mag-maintain ng status, no? They have to go to school all the time. Now, hindi naman po pwede, Kuya Johan, na part-time ka lang, di ba? Kasi ang requirement ng batas, nga pala, discuss din natin sa mga kababayan natin, viewers natin, that at least ang minimum units is 12 units. So, hindi pwede na student visa ako, 3 units lang ako, right? 3 hours lang in a day, then tapos ka na. It doesn't work that way, or 3 hours in a week. But anyway, so, your minimum units is 12 units. Whether yung supposedly 4-year course mo, kinukuha mo yun ng 8 years, right? As long as you go to school full-time, that is all required and you are not violating your status. So, or let's say, Kuya Johan, meron din akong client who natapos na niya ang bachelor's degree, right? Let's say, political science, then nagkumuha siya ng another law degree, which is another 2 to 3 years. That's allowed. And then tapos na siya ng law, gusto niya ulit mag-RN. Pwede rin yan. I have seen as much as 12 years, no? On a student visa kasi naghihintay ng priority date ng petition ng tatay, which is ang F1 ngayon, yung unmarried son of a US citizen from the Philippines is mga 10 years yan. At that point, parang 12 years. Na-maintain yung status niya, Kuya Johan, for 12 years. Right? So, when the priority date became available, as we all know, kasi ang preference category, kahit maging available yung visa mo, kung nag-fall out of status ka or nag-violate ka ng status, you cannot adjust status unless you are 245I. Right? Or unless you are maintaining status, kagaya yung kliyente ko who went to school for 12 years just to maintain that status at, kumukuha siya ng mga 12 units every semester para ma-extend hanggang 12 years and went to school for siguro nakatatlo siyang kurso bago naging available yung visa. So it's going to be tough, Kuya Johan, when you go to the interview kasi titignan lahat yung proof that you were in school, di ba? Na hindi ka nag-violate ng status, right? That all these years, na meron kang status. So, ang gagawin mo lang, Kuya Johan, is let's say, nasa student visa ka na, tapos ka na ng course, maghanap ka ulit ng school para i-issuean ka ng I-20. Right? So, yun yung basis mo para sa student mo. Kasi usually when you enter the US, Kuya Johan, let's say, the visa says attend school at UNLV, University of Las Vegas, right? Of course, nasabihin doon. Then, pagpasok mo sa Amerika, hindi ka naman bibigyan ng 6 months, right? Or 2 years sa visa mo, sa I-94 mo. So usually, what the CBP writes on your I-94, as we discussed in the past, where they input in the system kung anong nature ng visa mo, kung anong hanggang kailan yung status mo. So ang ilalagay nila doon sa is DS duration of status. Habang nasa school ka, okay mong gamitin itong student visa mo. So practically, the answer is yes. You can go to school as long as you want, as long as you're paying the tuition fee, and as long as you're not violating or has not violated your status by overstaying and by working without work permit.
Ayan, yan. Nabanggit niyo, attorney, yung working na yan. Because if you stay here long enough, longer than your original intent, siguro naman kailangan mo na magtrabaho to support yourself a little bit. Gusto mo mamasyal dito sa Amerika and everything. So, kailangan mo na ng konting trabaho. So, mga kaibigan, isa yan sa mainit na itinanong ninyo kung ang mga F1 visa holders ay pwedeng magtrabaho. Attorney, sagutin natin yan after we remind them on how to contact Reeves Immigration Law Group. We will be right back for that question, kung pwede bang magtrabaho ang naka-F1. Pagkatapos lamang po ng ilang paalaala galing po sa ating mga kaibigan from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Diyan lamang po kayo.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has been representing immigrants for nearly 40 years. Reeves Immigration Law Group has been fighting for its clients through experience and expertise. With immigration lawyers you can access at reasonable fees, even on Saturday. Payment plans are also available. Call us for your immigration solutions. We can do worldwide telephone and Skype consultations. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009. Reeves Immigration Law Group has offices in Los Angeles, San Francisco, China, and Philippines. See us at www.rreeves.com. Reeves Immigration Law Group, 1-800-795-8009.
All right, welcome back to Immigration Law on Your Side right here at PHLV Radio. We're on every Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific Time. Kasama natin si Attorney Flomy, Javier, Diza. He is joining us via Zoom from San Francisco, California. Bago tayo nag-break, Attorney, ay tinatanong natin, pwede bang magtrabaho ang mga naka-F1 visa?
Generally, the answer ko is no, especially during the first year. Kasi you're promising the U.S. government when you apply for a tourist visa that you are able to go to school, right, and providing them a source of funds, the tuition fee, and yung cost incident to going to school. By providing an affidavit support, from your relatives and from yourself that you're able to go and pay the tuition fees. Now, there are situations, Kuya Johan, that is unavoidable na hindi mo na kayang mabayaran ang tuition fee or hindi mo kayang supportan ang sarili mo because, let's say, hardship, pwede ka mag-file mag-request sa school mo, right? Yung designated school officer po ninyo, requesting that something happened to my family. For example, right, the one who executed an affidavit support, promising to support me hanggang matapos ang aking education, nawala ng trabaho, namatay, right, or any other reasons that stop the flow of funds. So you can claim for hardship, di ba? So pwede ka mag-request ng hardship, and the designated school officer would then endorse you to apply for work permit. So yun lang yung exception, Kuya Johan, hardship, right? So during the and of course during that time in campus din, so doon ka usually siguro assistant coach ka ng basketball, right? Or pwede ka maglinis ng mga dining areas ng school or anything like that. So pwede in school diyan as long as you can prove that there's a hardship and you are required to obtain a endorsement from your school and work authorization from the Department of Homeland Security. Now, the good part, Kuya Johan, is that pag patapos ka na yung school mo, they allow you to what we call an optional training, right? Yung optional practical training, where you're allowed to apply for work permit, right? Issue ka ng Department of Homeland Security for 1 year. Then you have to look for a job that commensurate to your education. So for example, ang pinag-aralan mo is nursing, right? Doon ka sa hospital, right? Kung lawyer naman, doon ka sa law firm. Kung chef, syempre sa restaurant. So anything that has to do with your schooling, inaalaw ka nila magtrabaho, right, for that 1 year. So meron kang leeway ng 1 taon. Now, sa mga science, technology, engineering, yung STEM naman, next yun hanggang 2 years. So may definition po yan ng STEM, right? Yung mga engineers, agriculture, math, technologies, lahat yan pwede silang up to 2 years. But again, of course, you have to apply for work authorization. Usually, what I advise sa mga kababayan natin, lalo na kung nakagraduate ka na ng bachelor's degree, di ba? At saka binibigyan ka pa ng additional 1 year to 2 years on a valid visa, under that student visa, and having that work permit. Kung nagustuhan ka ng employer mo, right, doon sa pinagtatrabaho mo, then you can ask them to apply you the H-1B para mag-transition ka na from the student visa to an H-1B, right, or magpa-petition ka na under the EB-3. Pero karamihan, Kuya Johan, sa mga employers, gusto nila H-1B muna, non-immigrant muna, and of course, tinitignan din muna ang kanilang employee, right, ang kanilang petition if they're good workers, and then H-1B transitioning into a green card, yung labor certification and I-140. So yun po yung paraan at ways where the student visa can work and or apply for work authorization.
Okay. So mga kaibigan, nasagot ni attorney at kung meron po kayong mga katanungan, consult our friends from Reeves Immigration Law Group. Attorney, I'm gonna backtrack a little bit regarding the visas. Meron tayong mga nakilala at we've met along the way. They're in school, but they are on a different visa like J visa, yung iba M visa. How does this differ from the F visa, attorney?
Yes, ang student kasi ang pagkakalam na lang natin does not only confine to a student academic visa, no? Meron din yung vocational, Kuya Johan, vocational courses where it allows you only to like apply for 2 years courses. I have a client who went to school and study flying, maging piloto.
Wow.
Ang in-apply nila is M1 visa. I don't know kung bakit vocational yun, pero parang 2 years lang kasi yung duration. So, yun yung M1 visa. So, yung pamilya niya pwede rin makarating dito an M2 visa. Yung J naman, Kuya Johan, is yung cultural exchange visitor. Right? So, pwede sila mag-aral, pwede sila magturo, but they have to go back. Right? Go back to the home country, especially if they're sponsored by the government, and they have to go back for 2 years before they can change their status. We have one program sa ating visa PHLV radio dito sa Immigration Law on Your Side where we discuss J1 visa, right? At saka how to apply for a waiver if they intend to change status or be petitioned as a green card in the US. So yun yung mga kategorya, Kuya Johan, ng very common categories ng student visa. F1 visa, M1 visa, and of course sa mga people from Canada and Mexico, instead of F1, they're called F3. So basically pareho lang ang process, right, that they are coming here to the US to study, right, and prove that they are able to fund themselves or have someone else do an affidavit support.
All right. So maganda mga kaibigan ang pinag-uusapan natin yan. If you're just joining us right now on PHLV Radio, we are talking about the F1 student visa. Kung may mga katanungan po kayo, i-comment lamang at makakarating po ito kay Attorney Diza. Isa sa tinext dito sa atin at magkano daw yung fee to apply for the student visa, Attorney?
Ang DS-160, marami yan. Yung service that we mentioned kanina is $200. Yung I-20, you have to ask the school. Probably it's free. Then once you apply, before you schedule an appointment with the embassy, yung DS-160, that's $260. And then yung visa fee, that's also separate, around $100. So, but if you're changing status dito sa US from tourist to student, yung filing fees nasa around 500. Siyempre, di kasama ang service fee. The other question is magkano ang tuition fee. So depende rin sa school yan, right? May mga community colleges and universities where community college ranges from probably 5,000 to 15,000, right? Yung mga universities naman like UCLA or other private institutions ranges from 25,000 to probably 100,000 per semester, right? So titignan ninyo kung, and in fact mga kababayan natin, ang international students mas mataas ang tuition fee po ninyo dun sa mga residente, di ba? Let's say California resident ko, Nevada resident ka, may mga tawag nito allotted or meron kayong discount, di ba? Pag resident po kayo. Pero pag international students, you'll be paying the premium tuition fee because you are international students.
Yes. Yes, para sa mga kapakanan ng mga listeners and viewers natin from outside the country, that's how it works. Say for example, taga Nevada ka, dun ka sa California, nag-college, medyo mas mataas ang tuition mo dun. Hindi ka taga California, taga Nevada ka. So, mas lalo na kung ikaw ay international. So, you're gonna have to pay the premium tuition fee. Attorney, isa-segue ko na sa isang text dito. We probably know the answer to this already, but our kababayans from the Philippines always hear about student loans here in the United States, especially those that are guaranteed by the government. Itong mga F1 visa holders ba to pursue their education, will they be allowed to, or will they even qualify to consider some sort of student loan assistance?
Most likely, Kuya Johan, if they're going to ask loan from the U.S. government, right, or U.S. institutions, the answer is no. Pero kung may sponsorship ka, Kuya Johan, because like for example, you are a scholar, di ba, of this university, posible yon. Let's say you're being picked by a non-profit organization, by the school itself, right? And sila bahala ng tuition, that's allowed. But kung ikaw mag-apply ng student visa at sasabihin mo, I'm going to get a loan, right, or apply a loan in order for me to apply for a visa, that doesn't work. But if you're already like unpicked, right, or meron ka ng let's say Fulbright scholarship, for example, right, based in the US or from Europe, kung saan man, right, at meron ka maipakita that they're going to pay this much amount of money, let's say 90% of the tuition fee or 50,000 out of the whole course or the full amount, then you can provide that. Then the answer is yes, you can use those. But for you to, let's say, mag-apply ka muna at sasabihin mo, mag-apply ako ng loan after, then the answer is no. Because again, one of the requirements is to show that you're able to fund your education when you apply for a tourist visa.
Yes, attorney. Ang mga nagtatanong sa atin itong, alam mo, marami kasi mga matatalino talaga tayong mga kababayan, and they're being sent here in the United States to pursue education under scholarships or grants from, like what you said, mga non-profit organizations. And even in the Philippines, we know of organizations who sponsor kids or even professionals to pursue education dito sa United States. So napakagandang information po yan. So attorney, I will give you this floor right now to add more to our discussion kung meron pa po tayong nakalimutan regarding F1 visa. Otherwise, let's invite them sa mga activities po natin dyan sa California.
Yes, yung student visa, mga kababayan natin, is one of the ways for you to enter the US on a longer basis on time. Like especially if you plan your life in the US, I mean, 2 to 4 years to probably, as I mentioned, hanggang 12 years. But as long as you have the capacity and you have the money to go to school, that's one way of, bringing yourself in the U.S. and your family and finding a solution, whether you want to immigrate here, stay here longer than, being a student. So that's really a great way, Kuya Johan, to, get education at the same time, plan your life, whether to stay here or go back to the home country. So, and also, reminder natin sa mga kababayan natin, if you are on a student visa, right, plan already with, let's say, yung asawa po ninyo, maghanap na siya ng employer, lalo kung gusto ninyo mag-stay dito sa United States. Yun po ang student visa. As nabanggit nga natin kanina sa opening mo, Kuya Johan, that the election May 9, kahapon sa US time, nagkaroon po tayo ng election sa Pilipinas for the national and local elections, at marami sa ating mga kababayan, marami ang nag-away-away dahil sa election, right? The national local election has been very difficult and divisive sa atin. Mga kaibigan, kaklase, at mga kamag-anak, siyempre magkakaiba ang ating political opinions and political belief. But since tapos na rin ang election, Kuya Johan, at isa din naman ating hangarin nito, ang hope na lang natin, it's of course for betterment ng Pilipinas at lahat ng mga Pilipino nasaan man po kayo. We hope for the best sa Pilipinas and of course sa lahat po ng mga kaklase ko, mga kaibigan, kamag-anak at fraternal brothers na tumakbo, nanalo at natalo. Congratulations po sa inyo at keep doing a great job. Maraming salamat.
Para sa ating inang bayan. Maraming salamat po, Attorney Diza. And with the things that we're doing, public service para sa ating mga kababayan, ito na ang ating contribution sa ating inang bayan na mabigyan natin sila ng information dito sa Immigration Law on Your Side. And agpapasalamat ako sa Reeves Immigration Law Group sa patuloy na pagsusuporta sa PHLV Radio, especially sa pag-mount nitong program na ito. At napakarami po ang nabibigyan ng mga impormasyon. So, Attorney, thank you so much. And we hope to see you soon there in San Francisco. We hope to travel soon there and probably tape an episode from your office.
That's a good idea. Kuya Johan, let me know. Hopefully, magpang-abot tayo.
Yes.
Yun ang wish natin pag nandito ka.
Yes. So, Attorney, maraming salamat. And mga kababayan, maraming salamat for joining us tonight on Immigration Law on Your Side. And you can send us your questions and suggested topics din dito sa PHLV Radio, info@phlvradio.com, or comment lamang dito sa baba ng ating post. And sa mga nakikinig sa app natin and also sa ating podcast edition, maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig. Hanggang sa muli po, ito po si Kuya Yo from PHLV Radio in Las Vegas. We will see you next time.
Reeves Immigration Law Group has just brought you Immigration Law on Your Side, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Pacific on PHLV Radio.